Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today we're going to talk about this Twitter thread that kind of kicked up yesterday that got quite a bit of traction in the Pokemon Unite community. I'm going to give my thoughts and give a little bit of context, but today we're looking at Jonathan Chow, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, JCM1117 on Twitter. It says part of Tencent's Timmy Studios. So it doesn't exactly say his position, but essentially he posted a tweet 18 hours ago and it says, I've been busy with a lot of things, or with a lot of things I cannot say, but I understand a lot of you have feedback for Pokemon Unite. Use this thread to share your thoughts and I'll send another round of collective feedback to my colleagues. Be constructive and critical, don't be a douche. So we have to dive a little bit further, and I need to show y'all back in August of 2022 to give you a little bit of context. My man's into fitness, so big shout outs to him for all that. So August 2022, he's in Worlds. You can see he was, he went to London to go to Worlds, and just before this, we have some context. Okay, so Jonathan, on July 27, 2022, rather, he said, Wild Rift, Honor of Kings, on Arena of Valor, Mobile Legends, Pokemon Unite. What do you like or dislike about these games, and how are they devved or managed? And then after that, like a month later, he clarifies his role on Pokemon Unite, and so we can actually take a look at this post. So I want to give as much context about this person as I can. Clarification on my role in Pokemon Unite. I wanted to clarify a few things. I'm not directly on the Timmy dev team for Pokemon Unite. I'm more of a consultant at this moment due to my past working experience and gameplay producer on League of Legends Wild Rift. I do communicate directly with the dev team, which means I will read every tweet reply that is constructive feedback. I will relay major feedback back to the dev team. Please keep in mind that for me, Pokemon Unite is a passion side project, as my job responsibilities are on other titles, so I may not have time to respond to every message. There will be times when I am not very active within this community. If I have some time and the team allows me to share, or if I have some info that the team allows me to share, I will, but personally think official comms and announcements should go through the main Pokemon Unite account. Lastly, I do really love Pokemon and MOBAs, and as a Timmy team member, I really hope to see Unite continue to improve. So it's very it's very, very unclear. In the past, his bio, if I remember correctly, used to say Tencent producer, because that's how I've always known him and addressed him. So it's very, very unclear. It seems like he works for Timmy and Tencent, but it's like a consultant role, or at least a consultant in terms of what he does for Pokemon Unite, but he's an employee of Timmy Tencent somehow. So it's, like I said, a little unclear. This is back in August of last year, and like I said, he went to Worlds. He asked back in July of last year, what do y'all do and don't like about these games and how they're devved? And I'm gonna go ahead and find my comment because it's right here, and we're gonna take a look at it. So this is, again, July 30th, 2022. I said, Unite Pros, amazing gameplay loop, strong IP, lots of promise for expanding the game. I said, example, boss rush, infinite potential for the game, casual but surprisingly very competitive. Cons, poorly designed rank system, lack of incentives for non-5 player parties, rank specifically, overpriced cosmetics, RNG gotcha system for emblems, lack of communication from devs to players, poor support communication outside of Pokemon Unite Japan account, vague patch notes, lack of information inside the game, poor performance on Switch, no controller support via mobile. So Unite feels like it's lacking content. New Pokemon releases are amazing, but it's not the grind we crave. A solo duo ranked ladder with some matchmaking changes and changes to the rank system would be very interesting. So honestly, every single thing that I said here still stands, except for maybe vague patch notes. Like, we have slightly better patch notes, and maybe we could get some communication even more to make those patch notes a little bit more clear on the intention. But all of this is exactly the same. So again, fast forward, to today, well, yesterday, essentially I replied and I linked to that same thread, and I said, I think only one thing from the last patch I provided feedback on, Unite has since been improved on. Patch notes are now much more transparent. Otherwise, the same issues exist and or have gotten worse. I said Pokemon Gem only releases are pay to win. Ranked matchmaking has gotten provably worse, and the overall experience for non-player 5 parties continues to deteriorate. So essentially, I'm basically saying, hey, look, we've done this song and dance before. Nothing happened. Now, I'm thinking about a decision. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and make a decision. So I've talked about in the past how I have gotten on a call with a Tencent producer. That was, again, my perspective on who this person was. It was actually Jonathan Chow. So prior to Worlds, he actually reached out to me, and I'll show you a little bit of that. So prior to Worlds, you can actually see he reached out to me on August 8th and said, I'm happy to listen to your thoughts on Unite if you're willing to share some candid feelings. So with that being said, I'm actually going to read what I sent him and then explain how our call went. None of this was under NDA. He did ask that I didn't record the call, and I don't know that if he would appreciate what I'm doing now, but I don't really care, so whatever. So let's read let's read what I said, and then we're going to talk about my thoughts on what's going on now. So I said, hey, Jonathan, so this is unexpected, but of course I'd be happy to share my thoughts. I'm kind of the abrasive king of feedback, but I do my best to also share my thoughts and feedback when I can. So this reply to your tweet, I said, so this reply to your tweet is a small TLDR, but truly I'd like to focus on the ranked experience in Unite, as that's where a lot of replay value for a live service game comes from. Unite's ranked experience suffers from a few specific variables. 1, ranked system itself. 2, the matchmaking given the results of the ranked system. 3, the incentive and rewards for playing the ranked mode. I said, 1, the system itself is probably the biggest concern, as we've seen players who perform poorly advance and rank up with ease. My biggest fear is that this is by design, because Unite is inherently more casual than your average MOBA, where the goal should be a lower barrier for entry to the players. That unfortunately creates a very frustrating experience for players who are very skilled, knowledgeable, I don't know what I was going for, who are very skilled and knowledgeable is what I meant to say. TLDR, a player with a less than 50% win rate should probably be more fit to be playing in veteran or ultra rank, while they continue to play and attempt to improve over being in Masters, which is commonplace for Unite. 2, the matchmaking in ranked Unite feels almost non-existent outside of what is presented. For this particular point, I will discuss Masters. Masters players can queue down with ultra and veterans. It's now just ultra. So they kind of fixed it, but then they broke it again. This, outside of the fact that most anyone can already achieve Masters, is a bit problematic, as it leads to higher skilled players unintentionally carrying players to higher ranks. More strict and tighter matchmaking would provide a better experience for every player. If I was a very high skilled player, I would want to play with other similarly skilled players within reason. The same would be true for a medium skilled player or a newer, lesser skilled player as well. Overall, the matchmaking is less of an issue, because currently most anyone can reach Masters now anyways, but even just within Masters, the matchmaking is a bit too open. We've seen point gaps between players of over 1,000 master points within a single game, which usually just has the system leveraging a high rated player versus their lower rated teammates to create an average. And I put in parentheses, I assume this is how the system works, to create in quotes fair matches. But while said game might be fair on paper, it isn't particularly fun or fair for the high rated player who is now tasked with carrying much lesser skilled allies. Said 3, lastly are the rewards incentives to play ranked or to continue to play ranked, mainly the leaderboard. Unite operates very similarly to what a flex queue would be in other MOBAs, where you can queue with 1, 2, 3, or 5 players. This leads to complete domination of the leaderboard by 5-stat groups. As a predominantly solo queue player myself, this kills most of the replay value of Unite, as I know it's practically impossible to climb past a certain point. 5-stack parties can hold anywhere between, say, 55% to 80% plus win rates due to their coordination, and a little help from the matchmaking also pair them with lower rank 5-stack groups, or even pairing them of 3+2 players. 5 versus 3+2 isn't literally unwinnable, but it practically is. That aside, solo players lose most of their replayability once they reach Masters, or once they reach the highest reward in Masters at 1,600 points. I think ranked is where most of Unite's issues could be solved, which would lead to a better experience for most players, not just high-skilled players. I know matchmaking systems are never perfect and can be very tricky, but I do believe that something like a solo duo ranked ladder, entirely separate from the flex or 5-stack queue, would greatly add to the replayability of the game at very least. I think there's plenty of other topics outside of ranked I could touch on as well, but those are our main concerns as gameplay goes. So obviously here, I didn't have the opportunity to, just in this message, to talk about pay to win concerns, monetization concerns. There's so many things. Performance. I mean, literally anything you could think of. Pick ban, because literally anything that you could think about, I hadn't had a chance to discuss here. And he simply said, hey, I'm in a meeting right now, so I'll read your essay in a bit. Since you're in the USA, you want to jump in a call or something later, 1.5 hours, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, we proceed to set up the call and talk a little bit more about things there. So in the call, he did kind of give me some information about, who he is and how he doesn't have a direct role with the developers, but that he is going to pass along feedback. Now, the reason why I'm doing this tell-all, right, is because I've vaguely talked about that interaction that I had with Jonathan last year in the past, but I see this post and I just think to myself, has something changed, right? Because the hopium in me is maybe, with his, because I'm perceiving this as a bio change. Maybe he's actually a part of Timmy Studios and is working with Pokemon Unite now. He said he's going to collect feedback for his colleagues, so I don't know. Maybe there's some hope that he can actually help drive some change. But at the same time, I want to be incredibly skeptical because I just doubt it, right? To me, we've done this song and dance before, right? And I read through the replies, and I literally did last night. I read through every single reply. There might be more now, but I read through every single reply, and I'm going to show you what I compiled. And I didn't tally it, but this is what I compiled was the most requested things. The top 5 requested things were pick ban for ranked, better/fixed matchmaking, mostly that point levied on the people that are 5-stack masters playing against 2 and 3 paired groups with veterans and ultras. And so it's very much so on that point, but I just simplified it. Better fixed matchmaking, better, faster balance, more frequent. A lot of people were talking about Zacian Comfy specifically, obviously. So people were like, hey, y'all need better balance. You need faster response to balance. Number 4, there was a lot of people in this thread talking about punishment for bad actors, AFKs, people that are griefing games, of course, because it's been a consistent issue in all of Unite. And then number 5, there was actually a lot of people that had the feedback that said, hey, Gemlock for ranked, Gemlock Pokemon should not be in ranked until they're free to play. So you could Gemlock, if you're going to Gemlock a Pokemon for a week, you Gemlock it a Pokemon for a week, it's locked to standards, everybody can play it in standards, if they pay, and then when that week is over, people can buy it and with coins and essentially use it for ranked, which I think is a perfect solution. If you're going to be greedy and you're going to Gemlock it, at least keep it the fuck out of ranked, right? Because that's just the best thing you could do. So I think that, obviously with the title, it's the Pokemon Unite community is hard snorting hopium, and I get it, right? The general consensus right now is that Unite is just not good. It just is. People are very, very displeased with the state of the game. They're displeased with balance. They're displeased with the design choices that they've chosen to take. Personally, I think part of Indie's communication is ranked game mode for competitive play has little to zero parity with the actual competitive examples. No pick ban phase, bugged Pokemon, not locked out emblems, etc. This is something that when I first heard that tournaments were not going to have emblems, I was like, that's a huge mistake. And the main reason why it's a huge mistake is because you're disenfranchising your viewers and your players from the competitive scene. Now, it's not much, right? Because it's not like we as viewers are looking at their emblem builds anyways, but it's a completely different game. Literally, it's a completely different game. Now, I've talked about this in the past, but why does the emblem system exist then? If it's in the game and they don't use it for tournaments, but it provides stat boosts and bonuses and unique ways to build your character, why does it exist to begin with? Really break it down to an atomic level. Well, it's a system that requires you to, it's a retention system, right? Because in order to unlock the emblems, you have to play a lot. So it's trying to drive player retention. But it's also kind of a pay to win system in the sense that, there is a bit of a financial gain for them if you're buying the boost tanks, if you're, trying to engage in that system to get what you want. And then if you look at the system itself, the reason why the emblem system is so terrible is that they have it particularly crafted in a way that it's not beneficial to the player, right? You have to spend gold to upgrade. You have chances to fail your upgrades. You have no duplicate protection on emblems. You have no way to craft or disenchant or create the emblems that you particularly want. It is a dog shit system, right? Let's not kid ourselves when talking about the emblem system to say that it is anything other than exploiting the player's time, potentially their money, and at very least their interest in the game. Because if I'm gonna fucking play the game, I want to play the game with the good shit, right? Can you imagine if they had a bronze version of a fucking muscle band and you had to do some RNG gotcha system to upgrade your muscle band? We already had to go through the growing pains of held item upgrades in the early days, and now we're essentially doing the same thing with emblems. So the emblem system is terrible, and Indie's right. There's absolutely zero parity with actual competitive. The game is Pokemon Unite is either so casual that you don't care about any of this shit at all, or it's so competitive that you, ironic enough, don't care about the emblem system at all either. And so I think it's very obvious that the issues that we have with Pokemon Unite are by design. They're not falling short. They're not missing the mark. These are choices that they've made to make this game this way, to craft this game in a way that is beneficial to whatever metric that they're looking at. Now, in my mind, I see them looking at one, maybe two metrics. They're definitely looking at their like monthly, yearly revenue, quarterly revenue, whatever, however they want to look at it, right? And then they're looking at their player retention. Now, the question is, are they looking at those at the same time? Because if they're looking at them at their monthly, yearly, quarterly revenue, they're probably happy, right? Because this game grosses a lot of money. But if they're not looking at that number correlated to player retention, then I don't think they give a shit about what changes they make. Because the reality is, if you make no changes and you're still retaining good revenue, then who cares? And so, I don't know, Doom and Gloom or Krashy back at it again, right? But I've been saying the same thing for 18 months. I don't know. I really don't know how long it's been now. The game has been consistently bad, right? Now, I did this. I'm only going to bring it up because I'm kind of proud of the fact that I spent the time doing it. But somebody tweeted at me yesterday and said, I'm sorry to say this, but all you've done is bitch about the game ever since you started playing it. Why don't you just completely quit and focus and search for games you like? And I said, I absolutely love when people share this take. Enjoy this thread proving that I, in fact, do not only bitch about the game, but have spent a year providing valuable feedback. And I said, fuck anybody that says I didn't give everything I had to make Unite better. And this is a thread of literally every video I've ever posted of feedback, ideas, or wish lists, things of that nature. So, I mean, this is literally like 37 videos or 47 videos of me, talking about the game. And this is not like, these are all of my uploads between the gameplays and between the guides and between the build videos. This is me sharing ideas and sharing ideas with Spraggles and Teeds, talking about solo queue, talking about how season 2 was a disappointment, asking if the game was going to die, season 2 wish list, ideas to rework Master Rank, discussion on Master Rank matchmaking, discussion on Unite's longevity, pre-mobile release worries that I had. One of the first and second times I talked about how ranked mode was, talking about held item discussions and fixes for Buddy Barrier being overpowered, discussing the idea of a roll queue, talking about the jungle meta early on in the game. The first ever Pokemon or like Masters issue was where you basically couldn't climb. The points were super fucked up. Some of y'all probably don't even remember this. One of my first times to fix Zapdos, discussion about if the game was pay to win. I mean, all these videos that I've made, state of the game video, discussion about AFKs being a problem, season 3 wish list, the truth about season 3, comparing a ranked mode in Pokemon Unite versus that of like a competitive game like Apex Legends. You're on Fire podcast clip with Lucian Spraggles talking about matchmaking, talking about whether or not the jungle has too much experience. Another video talking about solo queue ranking, 3 ideas to fix Zapdos, which now is Rayquaza 2.0. Discussion about asking if we could get to draft mode, still not in ranked. Discussion on the future of the game, state of the game, state of solo queue, 50 changes I'd make to the game, an idea for a ranked mode. It's like all of these videos and all of this feedback, and this is the tweet that's going to save the game, right? So listen, I'm not here to tell you to quit the game. That's absolutely not what I'm doing. I'm here to tell you that like I'm sitting here wishing and hoping for the same thing that you're sitting there wishing and hoping. And that's that this game was worth playing. That's fun. And the gameplay is fun, right? It always has been. And I enjoy playing it from time to time. But I think that my biggest worry, which I believe is more true now than ever, is that it's all by design. And that no person's going to come along and fix this, right? Do I think that this could actually lead to some change? Yeah. I actually think that the general consensus on this is so high that people want pick and ban in ranked that'll probably happen eventually. Pick and ban will probably happen in ranked eventually. But like, even if it happens eventually, is that going to fix every systemic issue that the game has? No. And is that going to make their development on like a reasonable timeline where they actually implement feedback changes like in a reasonable amount of time? No, because they don't. So that's my thoughts on it, friends. I'd love to know what you think in the comment section down below. Hopium, dude. The Hopium is real, and I completely get it. I wish that it was I wish that everything was better. I wish that everything was different, because I'm in the same boat as you, right? Like, I would love to love this game, and I don't. I mean, I do to a certain degree, right? Like, I love it in the sense that, like, I wish that it was better, and I advocate for it to be better, and I talk about a lot of these issues for literally years now, because I wish that I could get on the game and just love the experience, but I don't know that anybody does right now. I don't know that anybody hops on the game and loves spending a large amount of time on the game, because it's just so frustrating to see how much the experience has deteriorated, to see how, you know, gem lock releases are overpowered, to see how you know, balance issues go untouched, to see how, you know, 5-stack matchmaking has gotten worse, and now they're, you know, up to 6,000 plus points, stomping veterans and ultras, as if the matchmaking wasn't fucking bad enough, as if the matchmaking literally wasn't already laughable and a joke. The rank system actually got worse, which is crazy. So, I mean, how do you make the worst rank system I've ever seen in history worse? But friends, drop a link in the video, subscribe to the Krashy channel. Yeah, as always, be sure to be kind of one another, tell somebody you love them. I'll see you in the next video.